All right. Welcome to Spit Take. My name is Adam Krause. Joining me today is Rick C. Otter Rogers and Uncle Sam Chidley. Say hello, guys.
Hey,
Hello.
All right. So today, this is our first podcast. We've been talking about this for quite some time. 6, 7 months, somewhere in there?
yep, we finally got together.
Yeah. So exciting. We kind of started this podcast just because we have a cool group chat going where all we do is talk about stupid nerd stuff, and we figured we'd share it with the world. Today, mostly what we're talking about, being Veterans Day tomorrow, we're talking about best and worst war movies, veteran movies, military movies in general, just kind of in honor of Veterans Day. And then we also have a great review of Five Nights at Freddy's, which me and Rick recently saw. I'm not sure if Sam saw that one, but we're going to give you guys kind of our feelings on it, spoiler free. Did you get a chance to see that, Sam?
I did not.
You didn't miss much, but we'll get into that later. So first thing, let's just talk about some of the fun stuff that's happened this week. Just kind of in media in general. The one I want to talk about the most is the new Ghostbusters trailer, Frozen Empire. Looks pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Like, I was a big fan of Afterlife. I really liked it. I think it hit the right chords. Third act kind of repeated the first Ghostbuster movie, but third act was basically shot for shot. But overall, I thought they did a good job bringing back the feeling and emotion in that. That was just it. It's been the first good Ghostbusters we've seen since I think it was 1991.
Yeah, and they're doing some kind of elemental freezing ghost kind of thing going on here.
Well, it's the
Yeah,
chill you get when the ghosts are around, man.
yeah. So they're like talking about being scared, scared frozen basically. So just the little image they had of that, kind of the boss ghost at the end of that, at the end of the trailer, it's got me excited for it. And especially they're going in a different direction than the Gozer stuff, which they kind of hammered home with this last one.
Right. Yeah, it seems like something that's took 40 years to wrap up.
Yeah. So, and that was my biggest issue. That was the only issue I really had with that movie, was that they weren't, they didn't bring anything new up. And I get it. You're kind of refreshing it for some of the younger fans. Like, there's a lot of people who were not born when that movie was made, myself included. I was still a couple years away, but I think there was a lot of like younger fans displaced from it, so they kind of took something that was familiar and could kind of bridge the gap. But like I said, overall, I thought Jason Reitman did a great job. And I like that he's producing this next one, but handed the reins over. I'm really excited to see it. And it's just after 2016, I was worried about the Ghostbuster franchise. I was worried.
Yeah,
I've never watched it.
I'm willing to give a little leeway to the Ghostbusters franchise for kind of explaining what's been going on with Ghostbusters. It's not like we're watching Batman and we've got to watch Thomas and Martha Wayne get killed again for the 20th time. A lot of people coming into it probably didn't watch the old one.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure there was quite a few people who this was their first Ghostbuster experience, but I guarantee you they went back and watched some of the originals after they saw it. They really enjoyed it. And I always I gave the benefit of the doubt to the 2016 Ghostbusters only because, and I'm sure will come up in multiple podcasts in the future. Ghostbusters is probably my favorite movie of all time. It is by far a movie that I could watch anytime it's on TV. I could watch it 10 times in a row and never get sick of it. It's just classic Murray, Aykroyd, Ramis, all fantastic.
Now I'm looking at this director, Gil Kenan.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't say I've seen too many of his movies. So Scream 2016, didn't see it. Monster House, know of it, didn't see it. City of Ember, never heard of it. Poltergeist, love the original. First horror movie I've really seen, Home Alone, when I was probably like 6 years old. Still a classic favorite, but this is the remake and horrible reviews by both audiences and critics, which tells me it was a terrible movie. Ghostbusters Afterlife, pretty positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes by both very high by audiences, which tells me, okay, that's who you're trying to satisfy as the audience, not the critics. So when I look at Rotten Tomato reviews, I'm mostly looking at audiences. Critics, I'm not. I don't. I take that with a grain of salt, but critics are still pretty high. So Ghostbusters pretty much did that pretty well. Some people do not like what they did at the end there. Felt like it was predictable.
Yeah,
Uh, I don't know if everybody's seen it. Don't want to spoil everything, but I've heard people say it was predictable. I shed a tear at the end.
agreed.
Personally, I had fun seeing classic characters come back and show up. I feel like the movie was a bit of a slow burn, the way it was set up. I mean, it was a quick slow burn. It wasn't like um, like watching an old history movie or something like that. But it was a slow burn leading up to something bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, A Boy Named Christmas. I thought that was pretty good on Netflix. Like Christmas movie. I don't know if you've seen that
No,
one.
no, I didn't see that one.
So those are all the movies he's done. Couple clunkers, but kind of middle of the road kind of movies. But his Ghostbuster pretty uh high ratings on the audience side. So I'd say Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I got high hopes for it, to tell you the
And
truth.
and I feel good about it being in Jason Reitman's hands, as the producer and basically like, hey, you're taking what probably like 3 or 4 years before it was even released. And I've always been a huge fan of his. And I think the first movie I saw by him was Thank You for Smoking, which I thought was just like one of
Yeah,
the
that was a good one.
best movies ever made. Sundance Film Festival, it won. I don't remember what year it was, but Aaron Eckhart did a great
Yeah.
job. Um, and then like there's a lot of movies that I've watched that I've been like, man, this movie is fantastic. And then I go look at it, and Jason Reitman is the mastermind behind it. Up in the Air with George Clooney. That was a fantastic movie too. If you never saw that one, it was really good. I think Anna Kendrick was in that too.
No,
No, who was it?
no.
I'm
That was. I mean, Anna Kendrick might have been in that one. Up in the Air. It wasn't the woman who was cheating on her husband. I think that just ruined the movie.
Vera Farmiga was in it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, Anna Kendrick was in it. Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick was in it, but I was
Yeah.
yeah, Vera Farmiga. I was thinking of Vera Farmiga. Yeah,
No, yeah, I was thinking of Anna Kendrick, who's like his little
it's like assistant or something.
mentee. Yeah, whatever it is. But
Yeah, I remember you.
I
That's when I
remember.
really loved it, Anna Kendrick.
Oh, who doesn't love Anna Kendrick? Wonderful actress, beautiful. But I really, I really like Jason Reitman's movies, so I'm glad that the Ghostbusters are in there, and they've announced a live-action TV show and a cartoon TV show as well. Who knows what this, with the strike recently, how long that's going to be before we see any of that. No, they might be waiting until after this movie releases to announce anything as far as like, release dates. But yeah, no, really exciting stuff about Ghostbusters. So I'm excited to see it. I don't know about this new director. Like you said, there's a lot of stuff that I haven't seen, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. Cool. And then the Marvels released today. We all kind of know how we feel about that, but for those of you listening, we're big comic book fans. We love Marvel, we love DC. We joke a lot. Rick is more of a Marvel guy, I'm more of a DC guy. And with the Marvel stuff, it started off strong, and Iron Man is still like probably the best movie that Marvel has made, in my opinion. But some of the stuff, I don't know if it's the comic book fatigue or what, but when I saw Captain Marvel, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was that great. But and I know I'm not alone in thinking that, but I know a lot of people did enjoy it. So we're not professional critics. We don't care. We just it is what it is. I didn't think it was anything special, but I also didn't think it was the worst movie I've ever seen. So there's that.
Well, I think the greatest Marvel movie is Guardians of the Galaxy. Personally, I think it has everything. I just can't. Okay. I love Brie Larson back in Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah, she was
Crush
great.
on her then. Love the cast of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. They were all young then. I was young then. It was a beautiful time. Comic book movies it was a different time back then. Now comic book movie, I'm burnt out on comic book movies at this point.
Yeah.
Like on superhero, not comic book movies. The way they are, and not even just superhero movies. The way they are doing superhero movies now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Rick, what I'm hearing is you liked her before she developed an opinion and started voicing that opinion. That's what I'm getting from that statement right now. Thor: The Dark World is the best Marvel movie.
Dark elves and
Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that's one of the worst.
Oh, it's it's by far one of the worst. But God, what was there's been a worse one. Oh, Thor, the new Thor, Love and Thunder.
I don't mind Thor: The Dark World.
No, I was gonna say, looking at a lot of the movies they've been putting out now, Thor: The Dark World just keeps moving up.
Yeah.
Because they're really putting out some garbage. It's hot garbage now.
Well,
and they're just killing their audience at this point.
So I think they were taking. This is my opinion. Is like just watching those movies is they're taking a lot of the wrong lessons from the movies that did things right. And just a good example of that. When Iron Man came out, everybody loved it. Everybody loved the movie. It was really well written. Jon Favreau did a fantastic job on that movie, but part of what they put into it was the humor. And Robert Downey Jr. brought that character to life. Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. He is Tony Stark. But I think that him playing that kind of humor, that playboy philanthropist thing, I think that the studio looked at that and was like, oh, people really like this humor stuff. We should put that in all of our movies. And then it just kind of went downhill after that, is that they focused on the humor instead of, hey, let's write a really good story and find somebody who is the epitome of this character, which I think they did with Captain America. I thought Chris Evans was a fantastic Captain America.
Now, anyways, before Sam made me lose my train of thought, I like Brie Larson before and I love the Marvel Universe before they all decided that when we said that the movie sucked, that they were going to attack the fans for letting them know that the movies weren't doing that great.
Yeah.
And that's what they started doing. And so instead of making the movies better, they doubled down on trash product.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what and now Brie Larson's talking about leaving the Marvel Universe. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
And
no, I missed that.
Yeah, and they also she's grown tired of it. She's grown tired of the drama. And they're also talking about rebooting the Marvel Universe. Because I'm pretty sure they don't know how to get the X-Men in there. And number one. And number two, I'm pretty sure they're losing money because of the direction they're going.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I have, I'll be honest, I have Disney stock and I've lost a lot of money. I've lost a lot of money on them right now.
Star Wars is gone. I have not watched Ahsoka.
I
made it through the first episode.
I think I got 2 episodes in. That was all I made it, but
I have not watched it.
Some of it's time, but like really, I mean, if the show is good, like I'll, that's something that's going to be first on my list to watch. It's like, cool, I will make the time to watch the show, but I just never felt the need to like go out of my way to do that. Like I'm rewatching South Park right now, and I'd rather get all the way through South Park and then a few other shows I'm behind on before I even touch Ahsoka again. So,
I made the decision today to rewatch Supernatural again for the 6th time.
Oh, I'll watch that every once in a while just because it's the greatest show ever.
We'll see you in 2 years.
No, I'll get it done in probably 3 months.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, I'll just watch an episode every once. My daughter was like, "Hey, what's that show that has cults in it? You want to watch Supernatural? Sure."
Yeah, cults in it and cults who follow it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that's fantastic show, and I introduced pretty much my whole family to that show, and I had started watching it from episode 1. And I
Yeah.
watched, I think, through the first 2 seasons. I kind of fell off there because I don't think I had cable at the time,
Adam, me
and
and you
then
were talking about it from the beginning. I remember
we were.
me and you were talking about when nobody else was talking about it.
Yeah, nobody knew what it was, and like we were talking about it in college, sitting around
In
playing
college, back
drinking
before we
games.
went to Afghanistan, we were talking about it.
Yeah, well, and I think I caught back up to it. I think I made it through like midway through season 2, and then I didn't have cable, whatever the case was. And then when I went to when we were in Afghanistan, somebody
Yeah,
got a copy from the bazaar of like
right.
the 4 seasons that
That's
were
why I
out.
caught up all up to it.
And then I came back home and I was like, cool, season 5 starts, let's go. And then I didn't fall off ever since. So,
I caught up. I think by the time I was in Afghanistan, Sammy like got with Ruby or something like that, and he got all
hmm
possessed and got
yeah,
secret power and all that stuff. Like a lot of stuff happened. It's just
yep,
crazy how much stuff happened in such a short amount of time.
yeah.
But it was like, oh yeah, we're only going 5 seasons. Like they kept saying that. They're like, oh, it's just going to be an epic. We're just going 5 seasons, and then they just kept going.
Well, that was all that was
Yep.
penned for the story originally was the first 5 seasons. And then that's why, who was it? Eric Kripke, I think, left the show.
Mhm.
Yeah, he left the show and he was like, "Cool, my story is done. This is as far as I wanted to go." And then who was it? Sarah something. I can't. Sarah Gamble took over the show. Sarah Gamble took over the show, and Bobby Singer kept producing and everything. So,
Bobby
uh,
Singer?
yeah,
Robert Singer.
Robert Singer. He goes by Bobby. We all know that. We all know that. But Robert Singer, sure, we'll call it Robert Singer. He took over he continued producing, and I think they fell off a little bit, 6 and 7 ish, and then it kind of like picked back up. I would say that was kind of the weak part was they didn't really know what to do after season 5, and then they just and then they figured it out shortly after, and then it got good again. You have your Scooby Doo episode, The French Connection, one of my favorites.
Yes.
The French Connection was the best. I think it's one of the best episodes of TV ever. So clever, so much fun, and unmatched.
Well, I mean, the French Connection is really like you could tell leading up to that they weren't taking themselves too seriously. It started out it was a serious show, but man,
hmm
by the time you got to French Connection, you just realized they were all in on the joke, and they realized that it was just a ridiculous show, but had such a following that they had to
hmm
do something, and they had to call themselves out on a lot of the bullshit they were doing.
Yeah,
And I mean that was fantastic. One of the best ways I've seen any TV show do something like that.
100%. And then you look at some of the episodes that they did, and like one of the reasons I think that show was so fantastic was they kind of like they they had some very overt references to pop culture, and then they had some very subtle ones too. That's like unless you're kind of a fanboy of some of these different movies and TV shows, like
Mhm.
you're probably not picking up on as much. I think it was in the final season they had the where I can't remember what her name was. They had like that kind of wood nymph maid or whatever in the bunker, and then they kind of turned it into a little Ghostbuster parody for a while.
Yeah,
That
I
was a
don't
good
remember
one.
what season that was.
That was the final season, I think. It was like 6 or 7 episodes from the end. Um, yeah, fantastic. I love Supernatural, and we're definitely going to be talking about that in future podcasts. There's no doubt about it. We're all huge fanboys of it. Um, so that's something down the line. And one of the ones, Supernatural, I can circle back to. They have a Christmas episode that I watch
Dean
every year.
Winchester, number 2 in greatest characters of all time.
Was that?
Dean Winchester, number 2 in greatest characters of all time.
I
I
mean, we
don't
all
doubt that.
know I named my son Dean, so
Yeah. Well, Soldier Boy is slowly becoming number 1. Speaking of, I did finish.
Right, Aunt Bethany.
Yeah. Well, so I did finish Gen V this week, and I thought it was actually a really good show. I think it was a very good spin-off that they did that exists in the Boys universe and ties into the Boys universe. I know you guys haven't watched that one yet, but I thought they
I'm 3 or 4 episodes in, actually.
are you?
It is, yeah, it is pretty good especially for a spin-off show.
Yeah. And I like that it doesn't the show does its own thing. It's not trying to copy what The Boys did. It exists in the universe. The story is something very different, but exists in the same way. And The Boys is great. I have you okay, I don't even want to spoil anything for you because I don't know if you've gotten this far. Have you gone into the dream world yet?
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't even touched it.
No spoils. No
I'm on
spoilers then.
Walking
You're
Dead.
there's a part you're gonna love it. There's a part you're gonna love in it. So there's a few different things that are just fantastic in that show. And until you guys watch it, we'll come back to that one after you guys have watched it.
Deal.
But awesome. We're 20 minutes in right now and cruising along. Let's jump into some war movies. So Rick, you just had kind of a stint watching them because you were kind of getting geared up for Veterans Day. For those of you listening who don't know, myself and Rick, we're both veterans. Served in Afghanistan for a year. We were with the Illinois Army National Guard. So we love some of the war movies. But yeah, Rick's been watching it, getting all geared up. Veterans Day is tomorrow at the time of this recording. But yeah, Rick, give us your best and worst.
Well, I've been watching a couple war movies last week. I mean, when it comes to the best war movies, my favorite war movie of all time is We Were Soldiers. The reason I like that, number one, Vietnam doesn't get a lot of love. Vietnam soldiers don't. Well, they didn't at that time. And We Were Soldiers is based on a true story. And a real battle. And it was a very bloody battle. And I believe they depict it well in this movie. From what I've read in interviews, they depict it well. And there's this helicopter pilot that kind of goes back and forth, put himself in danger. And apparently that really happened. And there's this part that I think is important. What's his name? Was the major or lieutenant colonel?
Mel Gibson?
Yeah. What's his name in that?
I have no idea. It's been a long time since I've seen that one.
Character.
I mean, it was a fantastic movie. I don't disagree with you.
His name's Hal Moore, and he talks about when we get on the battlefield, I'll be the first one to step off, and I'll be the last one to leave. And he holds himself to that. Mm-hmm. Now, when you think of leaders, and I'm a therapist, I work with people all day. You guys have bosses. I don't have a boss for a reason. You guys can tell the difference between a good leader and a bad leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You guys have had leaders and everything. You can tell this guy is a bad-ass leader. He's there with his soldiers. He's fighting with your soldiers. Adam, you can tell when you were in the military a good officer and a bad officer, right?
Oh, yeah. You knew who they were.
This guy was literally the first one off the chopper, and he was the last one off the chopper. You see what I'm saying? Like, yeah. If you look deeper into the movie, there was such an inspiration there that I don't think that, like, it's just a lesson in leadership of a movie. That this guy had his neck out there, bullets flying past his head. There's this part, it's my favorite part, and I've told you guys about this, but they have we have our flashlights in the army hooked onto the front of our LBE, and it got shot off. And he grabs the rifle and he turns around and shoots the guy that shot his flashlight off. And then he just starts barking orders at people, like unfazed. That's a real leader.
Yeah.
So
fantastic movie. I think that it's great. The way that they drop in, they show how it's going, and they even show if I'm remembering this correctly, they show down in the little holes where the Vietnamese are. It shows kind of what's going on their side too, which I thought was like an interesting play on that. I mean, you know, it wasn't just showing one side, like, you know, hey, here's the U.S., here's the enemy. It kind of showed a little bit going on there because there was the one Vietnamese soldier who had like pictures of his family, right?
Yeah,
So, and yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic pick for a movie.
yeah. Well, that's my favorite one, and I also when we're on the um idea of violent battles, Saving Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
You can't
Yes.
leave that out.
No.
And of course, what the first scene is like 15 minutes long.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, and that one's in definitely in like probably my top 5, if not my top 3. I love Saving Private Ryan. That was a huge hit. I mean, that was I remember when that movie came out, all the buzz about it, people talking about how bloody and violent the D-Day scene was, and I think they even showed it to us in school. Like, you know, after it came out on video, they were showing it to us like in history class to be like, you know, hey, check this out. And you know, you learn later on that you know, teachers typically are just showing you videos when they're hungover, but all
Yeah.
good. Oh, good. You know, hey, I got to see some bloody action over on Normandy. So,
Yeah.
uh,
And there's a really interesting part. Me as an empath, you know, there's that one soldier that didn't want to kill anybody.
Mhm.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
his buddy is fighting off that dude, and he's standing on the stairway,
dude, that one.
and that German's on top of him, and he's sitting there going, "No, no," and he's pushing the knife slowly through his chest.
Dude, no, dude, that is one of the hardest scenes to
Yeah,
watch in a movie. I don't know why, but it is a scene that shakes me to my core.
but you know, and I thought it was interesting because we were talking about, and for anybody listening, we were talking about gore porn the other day and how, like, I don't know, I think most of us kind of decided like we're okay with porn, or we like porn, or porn gore.
We, you're correct.
Porn.
Yes.
We
Speak
don't
for
Continue.
yourself.
like porn, but like when it comes to like gore porn, like getting off on gore, like that's a little
Yeah.
weird. But like that scene was kind of powerful in a way for
Yeah.
me.
It was, but it wasn't even like it wasn't even gore. It was just like the slow action, and you see the light go out in his eye, like
It
and
wasn't gore, but it was torture.
it was torture.
That's
Like
what I mean. That's what I mean. Like,
when I
I mean,
saw, go ahead, Sam.
what I just remember the most from that is that just long, just arduous take of that. It is
Yes.
just a long scene, and
Oh my
that's
god.
the most that's what really to me creates the impact on it.
And I
Is
don't
they're just holding on it.
and I don't feel like there's been like I don't know. Like I've seen, you know, plenty of horror movies, people get their heads chopped off and you're like, okay, cool, you know, but like I don't think I've seen anything since that scene that has just hit me like that. Like that, you know, that got me, man. Like, you know, and like you're sitting there and the guy who's, you know, the guy you're talking about who's a coward on the stairwell, you're
right?
like, you could have stopped this.
You're kind of
Like
you're like really disgusted in that guy.
I was like, dude, you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. Um, you know, and then he kills that guy like later on, you know, whatever when the whole battle's going on. But like, still, I still couldn't get over it. I'm like, no, no, no. You let Adam Goldberg die. That's what happened.
Yep.
It's amazing how many actors were in all these movies too.
Vin Diesel was in that.
Vin
Yeah.
Diesel was in that. Matt
Gets popped by
Damon.
the sniper.
Yeah.
What's his name? Um, Breaking Bad dude.
Yeah. Yep. Jesus, like, why can't I remember all these people? Like, if I was watching it, I would point out every single
Yeah,
one of them.
like there's a lot of people.
I'm gonna fact check all this right now. Saving Ryan's Private
Like,
is not the right one.
I might get these confused because I've been watching
You
all
said
these,
you liked porn.
like
Yeah.
Black
Well,
Hawk
don't
Down.
try and walk that back.
Like Black Hawk Down had a ton of people.
It did.
Like
Yes.
Eric Bana.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Eric Bana would have got an Article 15 if he didn't put his damn rifle on safety. Okay.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Let's see. Here, just gonna read off a few names from Saving Private Ryan. The big ones that I at least know: Tom Hanks, obviously; Matt Damon, obviously;
Wait,
Tom
Tom Hanks is in
Sizemore.
this?
Oh yeah. No, he's got a pretty big part. Tom Sizemore, Barry Pepper, which you might not know by
Edward
name.
Burns.
Edward Burns, yeah, Edward Burns is in there.
Jeremy Davies was in Sons of Anarchy. You never seen Sons of Anarchy, but that's a good one to watch.
Great show.
Yeah, Adam Goldberg, Vin Diesel, Giovanni Ribisi. I think I'm saying that right. Ted Danson's in it. Paul Giamatti. I mean, just like the list goes on.
There was
And I mean,
another
that's
guy that was in Sons of Anarchy. He played Opie that was in this, but he had a small role. I can't find him. But
Dennis Farina.
oh, here he is, Ryan Hurst.
Yeah.
Ryan Hurst was in Sons of Anarchy, and he was also Beta in Walking Dead, which he was just this big badass dude that wore zombie skin. That's freaking awesome.
Rest in peace, Opie.
Yeah, but I mean, just that opening scene in Saving Private Ryan set.
Did you name Nathan Fillion?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Nathan Fillion's in it.
Yeah, he was the one who they told his brother died, I think, but it wasn't right.
Yes. And he's like he's in grammar school.
Yeah, he's like no, he's like how is that possible? How'd they die in the war? Like
yeah.
No, that's a great movie, and I could talk about that one all day. But that opening scene just sets the tone for the entire movie. And Spielberg is just he's dynamite with that stuff, and he's had a few good war movies since then. I mean, obviously. You've got, Schindler's List, which is a good war movie. Granted, there's not like a ton of battle in it, but like, I mean, just, the nature of what's happening. But I mean, you got so many fantastic movies that come from Steven Spielberg. It's like he's either doing war or some kind of sci-fi epic. That's what he's doing.
All right, now here's one, and I know this is one of Adam's favorite. Heartbreak Ridge.
Hell yeah.
Now, Clint Eastwood. I got in the Army in 2001. Every freaking old man that joined up in the 80s that was still in the Army in 2000 is Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
I swear to God. All these old men telling, like, because in the beginning he's in jail and he's telling these stories and stuff like that. He got hung over and got arrested. Like, that's what it was like when I got it. And now it's sissified.
So I actually like it's funny because that movie brings up a rant I kind of want to go on because I love that movie. Heartbreak Ridge is fantastic. It's so much fun. Like I was telling you guys the other day, just the part where they all bring Swede gets out of prison and he comes in. They're like, oh, once he gets back, we'll be fine. Like because they're trying to force Clint Eastwood out. So like Clint Eastwood walks into the barracks and they're like, we don't have to listen to you anymore. And then like and then they're all going Swede, and just the look on Clint Eastwood's face. It is like this look of anger that's hidden behind something that's calm. Like he's like, I'm about to fuck you up. Like and like just that scene alone, the look on his face is why Clint Eastwood is such a well-respected actor. As that scene itself sells it.
Alive, can you believe that?
He is. He's the head of the NRA now.
Like 56 then. That was in 1985.
Yeah. Well, and and just that. But so here's my rant. Really, is that so when we were talking about it the other day, I went on IMDb and I read the reviews of it. I'm like, what did other people think of this movie? And a lot of people really don't like this movie. And but like it's the comments in it that and you get that a lot with a lot of war movies, and I think it's just ridiculous. Is oh, it's so unrealistic. Like blah, 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 I would never do that, and da da da. Like okay, like cool. Like I'll tell you for sure. Like if you were to sit there and watch what just a movie about how realistic the military and war is, you'd be bored to death. Like nobody wants to sit there watch a bunch of soldiers. Yeah, they don't want to watch a bunch of soldiers trying to throw rocks with their left hand because they have nothing to do until they go up on the range. Like that is what the military really is. So it's like we don't want realistic. That's boring. We want fun. We want entertaining, and that's why we go to the movies. That's why we go. We watch the shows we watch. We want to be entertained, and I was like, if you didn't find Clint Eastwood's performance entertaining, then I guess that movie's not for you. It is what it is, but it's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, it just the 80s younger people just remind me, like, he reminded me when I came back from Afghanistan. I went to mental health school, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And I was the war vet because he was in the Korean War and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I was the war vet.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and and that's like kind of the hard part. So now I will argue against my rant as well to a point, because I did when I saw what was that movie with like the EOD and everything,
Hurt
um,
Locker.
Hurt Locker. When I saw Hurt Locker, I left that movie thinking, this is terrible, this is stupid, this is one of the worst things I ever saw. It's completely, unrealistic and everything. Because a buddy of mine, and that's so. Anyways, later on, a buddy of mine asked me, he's like, "Hey," he's like, "Did you see that movie? War Buddy?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I saw it." I was like, "Yeah, it wasn't that good." I was like, it's got just some unrealistic shit. Like I was, talking about, oh, he goes out into the green zone. Just walks out the gate, and he's in town, and he's talking to these kids. Like he's doing this counterinsurgency thing with a sniper. I was like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And my buddy looks at me and he's like, yeah. He's like, okay, that makes sense. He's like, but he's like, and he proceeds to tell a story from when we were overseas. He's like, hey, he's like, you remember that time that they dropped off like too much frozen food to us, and we didn't have a place to keep it in the freezer. So we took a gator and drove out there, and nothing but our helmets, t-shirts, and pants, and tried to trade a bunch of frozen food for a motorcycle. He's like, if somebody like told that story, nobody would believe it. He's like, this is like, and that was his point to it. And I was like, God damn it. I was like, you are right. I was like, you're right. I was like, so, who am I to really talk about that kind of stuff? And, and that's kind of why I've changed my opinion on what's realistic, what's not. It's like, there's all kinds of stupid shit that happens out there. So, anyways, yeah, but I mean that's kind of how I feel about that situation. That was just a funny story I have. But moving on to favorites, Sam, what's your favorite?
I gotta go Starship Troopers. With my long and illustrious experience in the military, that is the closest I have ever seen to capturing just the sheer raw intensity.
Well, the only good bug is a dead bug, and we all know that. So the war with Clendathu was one hell of a war. Lost a lot of good people.
I mean, you can't live forever.
No, it can't live forever. That's right. That's right. It's fantastic. I mean, listen, I won't knock you. Starship Troopers, fantastic movie. I can't argue. But
no, for me, there's so many, and y'all have already hit some of the best ones. I mean, Saving Private Ryan is, for me, gotta be up there, either number one or top three, like you said.
yeah,
There's so many good ones. There's so many movies that have war in them, but I don't look at as a war movie as well. That it's hard for me to say, and I kind
there
of
are.
defer to y'all on a lot of that. There's stuff that I see that's just entertaining, but I mean, I kind of went the opposite way with Hurt Locker. The first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh man, that was a great movie." And then the more I sat there and thought about it and watched it again, I was like, "Yeah, no, this is not a good movie.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not
I
into
still
this."
don't get me wrong. I still don't think it's a good movie, and it won.
Hmm.
I think it won Best Picture, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just like
Um,
I didn't think it
it
was a good movie.
it won over one of the Batmans, didn't it?
I watched it the other day. I didn't hate it.
No.
Just gonna
Yeah,
say I didn't hate it. Um,
I love
and
Jeremy Renner. That's, I think, part of
I
what
do
I
too.
like
really
I
got
like
me into
Jeremy
it.
Renner. I like Jeremy Renner's kind of Jay Cutler don't care attitude.
Hmm.
Now I will bring up one scene from that movie that did hit me, hard in it. And there's good parts to bad movies, and I think this is one of the highlights of that one.
The kid.
Kind of no. At the end of the movie, when he's in the grocery store with his wife, and she asked him, like, oh, do you? I don't remember what they picked up, but she was like, do you want this one or this one? And and he just kind of looked at it, and it was just like he came home, and the hardest decision he had to make was what kind of ice cream or whatever it was to buy, you know. And after his whole ordeal, all the stuff all the decisions he had to make to like save lives, to do whatever, like that was the hardest decision he had to make. And I thought that scene was very impactful. Personally, just like as a moviegoer, I'm like, if there's a scene to take away from that movie, that was it. But overall, the movie as a whole, not a huge fan. I saw it once. I don't have to see it again, I don't think. But
I'm
yeah,
sure I
no, I
can
think
break out the DVD and mail it to you if you want.
that's that. I'll pass. I don't need to waste my time with that. Now I
I've got
will,
it packed away somewhere.
So and you brought up like there's a lot of movies from like the different war periods and stuff, and I think one of the um, there's a few movies. Did you guys ever see Life is Beautiful?
Mhm.
Fantastic movie. It's a foreign film, um, and it's basically about this guy and his kid who gets sent to a concentration camp. They're Italian, and the guy is trying to convince his son, so he doesn't like understand that they're in a horrible place. The guy is trying to convince his son um, that what they're doing is just a big game, and he's like trying to tell him all these different like lies and everything. He's like oh well, you got to hide here because if they find you, you're out and everything, and we lose. And so like they're doing this whole thing, and he's doing all this humorous stuff. He's like, oh yeah, they're sending me over to go do this race or whatever, and he's like waving at his kid and smiling. And the movie's fantastic. And I think that was another one that might have won like best foreign film or something. But I mean, I saw that. I think they showed it to me in high school, and I fell in love with that movie. And it's reading, of course, obviously, but I as far as foreign films go, it's probably one of my favorites. And I think it there's some really sad and emotional parts in that. Um, but if you guys ever get a chance, or if you see it like on Netflix or something, watch it because it is fantastic. As far as like the Holocaust type movies, that are impactful, I would say that's up there with Schindler's List.
You did just remind me of what actually is my number one favorite war movie, and it's The Great Escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
The Great
fantastic
Escape
movie.
is a fantastic movie. I love that movie. I will watch it once, every year.
Huge Steve McQueen fan, so.
Yes.
I also like The Patriot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I have a couple of favorites really, and so like this one, I don't think this one really counts, but it was made by veterans for veterans, and that was Range 15.
Another
Me and
good one.
Sam, we went and saw that together.
Or of Range 15.
So yeah, me and Sam went and saw that one together up here in Gurnee at the theater.
Yep.
And I don't think I've ever laughed that hard in a movie. And it's not like the movie is that great, but
It's
what it
really
nails.
not.
What the movie nails though is wish fulfillment. That is what that movie nails. So like when you watch a movie and it's wish fulfillment, you can see yourself in that place. They basically made a movie that was exactly what everyone pictures when the zombie apocalypse happens. And that I think that was probably the most fun part about it. Just in the first time, like after they kill the Shatner zombie, and they're like, guys, it looks like it's a zombie apocalypse. And they all start cheering and jumping and getting really excited. And it's like, yeah, this was wish fulfillment. And then just some of the gags in there are so stupid and so funny. And if you're a veteran, like, there's some stuff in there that you just like laugh at because you're like, I remember that bullshit. But all of that movie was funny. And again, not a great movie, but it's a fun movie. And I highly recommend people to watch that one. But if I have to go with like, kind of more of a serious movie, um, I really like Black Hawk Down. It's probably one of my more favorite ones. I love that story. The whole Battle of Mogadishu and, them, and it was fairly accurate. it was fairly accurate from what I understand. I mean, I wasn't there, but the whole running back to the base, I forget how far it was. It was like 26 miles or something like that.
Mhm.
They were just bounding back to the base, and they lost their cover. They didn't have anything. They had to get back. People were stuck overnight. People were captured, and there was like that we had the speaker when I was in ROTC. We had the speaker come in and tell us the story of like the events that led up to it, which is even crazier. And I'm surprised there hasn't been a movie about that. They had like captured people, dismembered them, and buried them like across like the desert so that they couldn't get to heaven. Like, I mean, it was like this
Yep.
insanely crazy story. But I love Black Hawk Down, and right up there with that is Jarhead. I liked Jarhead a lot. And you don't see a lot of Desert Storm movies, but I like Jarhead because it has kind of a fairly realistic depiction of what it's like being a soldier. Just kind of the goofiness, what you do to entertain yourself, just the ridiculousness. And I know that the writer of the book was not a fan of the movie. He did not like it at all. But I thought it was a pretty good, adaptation. I never read the book, so I'm going to say that the movie I thought was pretty good. So I don't know what you guys think about those ones, but those are two of my all-time favorites that I could probably watch anytime that's on TV.
I've never seen Jarhead.
Oh, I love Jarhead.
Yeah, good.
Just him whacking it in the hot porter john in the desert. I was just like, yep, you know what it's like to be a soldier, sir. But
I remember seeing Black Hawk Down in theaters, and it was a great experience. And all these movies, being in the military, like I have such nostalgia because all of these movies are movies that like us as veterans like watch together, like on the drill floor when we've had to like stay overnight, and there's just such nostalgia of like laughing together and goofing off while watching these movies. And
yeah,
so, like these movies really hold a special place. Watching them on deployment, and they like it's almost like I feel alone while watching them, but they hold a special place in my heart when I watch them.
oh for sure.
They're very important to me.
Yeah. Well, and there's so it was funny because I actually looked up like top 20 war movies earlier today, and like there was a lot of them that I'd probably seen maybe 3 of them that were in the top 20. There was a lot of movies listed that I had never seen. Some of them were fairly recent. Like I never saw Fury. I never saw 1941. Um, I did see Patton, and I like Patton. That was a good movie.
That's a good one.
That's got some iconic scenes. Just the part where he slaps up the soldier who's like crying in the corner. Like that was a fantastic scene. That's been parodied multiple times in different mediums. But yeah, so, I mean, just so many good.
I do want to see what's the one Tom Holland's in?
I couldn't tell you.
Where he's the conscientious objector.
I don't know.
Sounds like a pussy.
Well, yeah, but he goes in and he like apparently he goes in as a medical,
mm-hmm.
and it's supposed to be really good. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I wish I could remember the name of it, and I'm not going to look it up.
Yeah,
but yeah,
no idea. No free promotion for Tom Holland today. But we I would say one of like the worst movies I ever saw regarding veterans was Stop Loss. I watched that movie and I thought it was garbage. And I think I was watching a different context that most people do, because I mean when I watched it, I was getting ready to fly out to Afghanistan. So I'm like watching this movie of these guys like, oh, I got stop lost. I have to go back to war. They won't let me out of the army. And I was like, man, what a bunch of sissies. I was like, you're soft, man. I was like, go in there, get some. Like, let's go. And again, I was watching a different context. If I watched it today, it might be a different story. But I was like, okay, man, you do your thing. Go do what you want. And I will say this. It put me off of Channing Tatum because I think that was the first movie I ever saw him in. But I have come to love Channing Tatum and pretty much everything since then.
So there is a movie I want to give this one I want to give credence to is my grandpa, who's very old now. He's in his 80s, and I used to watch it with him. Dirty Dozen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great movie.
one of my favorites of all time. About convicts in the military and Project Amnesty, giving them kind of like a second chance, and what's his name, Major Warden,
Uh-huh.
the guy who plays him. What's his name?
I'm gonna have to look it up. Dude, it's been so long since I've
Like
seen that movie.
he plays him as good as Clint Eastwood does in Heartbreak Ridge. Like you can't imagine anybody else. Like he's a soldier. You know what I mean? Like he,
Wait, Lee Marvin?
yeah, he plays that well.
Yeah.
Like he's
Okay.
a badass.
I mean, again, another movie with a lot of big names in it. You got Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, Charles Bronson, George Kennedy,
Reisman.
Donald Sutherland. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So some big names in that one, and I always really liked that movie, and I think I only ever saw that on cable. I don't think I ever watched that movie in its entirety. And I think I've seen the whole movie, but I don't think I ever saw it like uncensored without commercials, to be honest. But I like that movie a lot. I think that's a fantastic one.
That's another one I'm fairly certain I have on DVD packed away somewhere.
Yeah, like I said, just so many good war movies to choose from, and I'm sure we missed some that somebody listening to here is probably like, "Oh, you're forgetting one of the biggest ones," but like I don't know it.
I mean, this could be a 6-hour podcast just talking about war movies, so
It absolutely could. It could be a whole thing, but the only one really that's on my list to watch that I have not watched yet is 13 Hours.
it's really good.
Not last night.
Really good movie.
With Benghazi.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing about Benghazi.
With John Krasinski?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching it last night.
Yeah, that's one that's on my list to watch. I actually just watched the FBI True on Hulu, no, Paramount Plus, about Benghazi, where they were talking about their part in figuring out what happened and all that stuff. It was very interesting.
Hey, what happened?
We know what happened. We're gonna skip past that part because I can't delete this whole episode. So I can't edit. I can't edit out 30 minutes of us talking. Yeah, it was the White Walkers.
Yeah.
White Walkers. That's what it was. Cool. Well, let's. I think we're good on war movies. Let's talk about Five Nights at Freddy's because I'm excited to talk about this one, and not because I love the movie. So I'll kick this off. I've played the games, one or two of them, a couple of times. They're fun. They're amusing. They scared me a little bit when I play them at night in the dark, for sure. But I was excited to see it because I know there's a huge following for it. So I was like, cool. They're going to probably put a lot of quality behind this, and I would give the production quality very very high rating. The script, it was not great. The acting was okay. The storyline just kind of falls apart at times. Overall, I didn't think it was that good of a movie. Like, I'll put it to you this way: I started watching it one night, and I ended up falling asleep probably about a half hour or 45 minutes into it. Went to go finish it the next day. Had about 10 minutes left, and I was like, I don't really know if I really want to finish this. So, I think if you're a fan of the movie, you probably enjoy it more. There's probably more Easter eggs, more things that you recognize from the games. But for me, I didn't think it was that good. What do you think, Rick?
Well, I mean, it was definitely for a fan. So the only reason I watched it or cared about it was because of my daughter. So I bought the games. I bought it in like a 5 disc set or something like that for PlayStation to play with my daughter. So I played it with my daughter, and she won't play it with me because she keeps getting too scared and running up halfway up the stairs. And I don't want to play it because I get too scared. So neither of us want to play it. Apparently, there's great lore with it. She reads the books and stuff like that, so she loves the lore. She watched all the YouTube videos. So apparently, this movie had like all the YouTubers. I recognize one of them, the Game Theory guy. I do watch I've been watching. He's been around for like a decade. Like I've been watching his videos for like a decade.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. I started watching him when they talked about Zelda game theory. So he's got some good stuff. It's just that he's always wrong. Um, but he's got some good stuff. And so I recognized him. He was the waiter in the movie. But
Yeah.
it was definitely for the fans. I honestly did not give a shit about this movie. I watched it. I did not care. My daughter was telling me like, "Oh, this character is in it," but they changed stuff like they do. I don't know what's wrong with translating stuff from a game or a book to a movie and doing it exactly the way you're supposed to, but they
Oh,
change
yeah.
stuff like they do. So my daughter didn't really care, I guess. But I guess like reading like posts and comments and stuff like that, people are saying I went to the theater and everybody was cheering. They were all Five Nights at Freddy's fans. It seems like, and let me look at the Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, and again, it didn't really do anything for me either. Like there was nothing.
88% audience reviews, 30%
Critic.
critic review. What is that?
That sounds right. That sounds right to me. But like I don't know, there was so much more that I felt they could have done with it to appeal to a larger audience. I think the PG-13 rating definitely limited how much fun they were going to have with the movie. It did feel like a horror movie made for children. That's probably the best way I could describe it. Some of the dialogue in there was so cliche and stupid.
This was one movie where I wish there was more gore.
Yes, it would have been fantastic if they had added gore.
They had like one scene where the chick was cut in half.
Mm-hmm.
But that was it, right?
Yeah, that was really it. But I think that was the problem, is it missed any type of subtlety. There was not really I'm not I don't like jump scares to be overdone. I like them in moderation, but there was nothing that I like to feel a little uncomfortable when I watch a horror movie.
You expected jump scares from this because that's what the game was.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what the whole
That's
thing
why
was.
I was disappointed from the movie, because I was expecting to be jump scared,
Mm-hmm.
and because that's what the game was, and it didn't give me what I expected. That's exactly why I didn't like the movie. That's why these movies that do this piss me off, because they don't give me what I expect.
Right.
They try to do something else because they try to subvert expectations.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's like one of the biggest problems with this movie is that they cliched all the wrong cliches. They, the lady being like, I can't go in there, it's not my fight for her to show up 10 minutes later and save the day and everything. Like,
What's up with that bitch?
yeah, she was the worst. Like, she shows up. My dad used to own this place, and let me tell
there?
you the story. Yeah, like, I don't get what your motivation is. Like, that, they're murdering children, but you're like, hey, cool, these are my animatronic ghost child friends. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, yeah, like it's just mind blowing.
It's like it didn't seem like she had any loyalty to her father ever, but she had to keep a secret.
Right.
So I haven't seen it. It sounds like she just showed up for exposition for the people that never played the games.
Basically, yes. She showed up for exposition, and to be like just a character that the movie could have done without.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I've never played the games. I haven't seen the movie. I probably will never see the movie. I am impressed that this started from a game that was created by one person.
Yes, nobody's denying the game. The game is, what he did was amazing. The franchise he created is amazing.
I'm giving him props because it's come from that to here.
It has,
and that's pretty impressive.
It is, and yeah, no, definitely props to him. I think he made a great franchise.
Hey, let's cheers to him. Like,
all right, cheers.
Hell yeah.
Rick's got his moonshine. I got my You guys can't see it, but I'm drinking some whiskey.
I'm drinking whatever's in moonshine. I think it's making me go blind, but
nice.
Yeah. But your movie shit, dude. Good job getting rich, but make a better movie.
So I was waiting for them.
But I guess it's a matter of are they not confident enough in the product?
Yeah.
To sell it to a wider audience.
Right. Well, and I think they did pay a lot of fan service to it, and I was waiting for them after the movie release. I was waiting for them to announce the R-rated cut like they did with Megan, which I thought Megan was fantastic.
Yeah, wasn't it Blumhouse that did this?
Yeah, it was Blumhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I still need to see Megan.
Megan was good.
Watch
Megan.
It's 13, so it was all right.
Well, so watch the director's cut though. That's rated R.
Oh, is it?
I thought that. Yeah, they had the director's cut. It was very, very bloody.
Is it on Peacock?
I think that's where I saw it. Yeah, I think that's where I saw it was on Peacock. But yeah, no, I watched the R-rated version. I never saw the PG-13. Yeah, next review we'll talk about Megan.
Megan R-rated version.
Yeah. Now, so I think we've said enough. Yeah. Now, so again, Five Nights at Freddy's, I will say visually looked really good. And I thought, they did a good job with the animatronics, they're the characters and stuff. I thought they did a good job puppeteering. I have no complaints about that part. I thought Josh Hutcherson, did the best he could with what he had. Nothing against him for it. Again, I think it just falls apart at the story. And it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so I'm going to go back because it doesn't make any sense. Why, so he's there the first few nights. They do nothing to mess with him, right? Maybe it's just because he's a security guard or whatever. But then, a group of people go in, try to trash the place because they're trying to set him up. Spoilerish part there, but a bunch of guys go in to mess it up, and what's coming to them. But you're watching it and you're like, okay, and they attack these guys instantly, and maybe it's because they're messing the place up, but it's
they're
just
in their house.
Yeah, but then they they don't even bother him. But what's the just the odds and everything of some of the stuff that happens? I give Matthew Lillard props on being creepy and weird. It's good to see him. It's good to see him.
He's a good actor.
That was predictable, by the way.
Yeah, 100% it was predictable. As soon as he saw the name and he, and he just starts getting all weird. Yeah, no, he was behind something. But still, Matthew Lillard, we like him.
Yeah, I guess.
I like Matthew Lillard. Now I'll caveat to this because I'm gonna do. Are we done with Five Nights at Freddy's?
No.
Oh. I was gonna say because I'm gonna caveat into a movie review for you guys.
Okay.
That I mentioned to you on our Facebook chat, and that's Willy's Wonderland.
Sorry, I really thought you were gonna say that I mentioned to you on our first date.
No. It was on Messenger, but so I think it was Monday. I think it was Monday or something. I was just kind of scrolling through, and I saw something from Screen Rant. It was if you weren't a big fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, watch Willy's Wonderland.
I've been wanting to watch that, but it wasn't on Hulu anymore.
It was okay. I just watched it on Monday, and it was.
Is it on Hulu now?
It was on Hulu, yeah.
Okay, I know it wasn't on last month.
So it was, yeah, it was on Monday. I looked it up and I watched it.
But I have heard good things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start by saying it's not a good movie. It is not a good movie. However, it is a fun movie.
Let's say I've heard good things. I mean, I can't imagine it being a good movie.
No, it's not. And I knew as soon as the title credits started rolling and I didn't recognize any of the studios or any of the names coming up except for Nick Cage, that, I was like, this is going to be shit. But I was like, I'm here for the ride. And, you watch it. So one of the cool things about this movie, Nick Cage never says a word the entire movie. Doesn't have one line of dialogue. Everything.
That's cool.
I'm sold.
It was awesome. And it was one of the reasons he took the project was because he was interested to see if he could play that part. However, the difference between Willy's Wonderland, to kind of set up what this is, it's basically Five Nights at Freddy's. So Nick Cage, his tires blow out. The town gets him hey, we'll fix your tires, but you got to go clean this place up overnight, which is Willy's Wonderland. So he's basically locked in this place and he's cleaning up and stuff. The animatronics come to life. and start to fuck with him. And what you're thinking is he's in like this horror situation, but if you were looking at this from the view of the animatronics, they're the ones in the horror situation. Because like Nick Cage just fucks up everything, and it's great. So just to give you, I'm going to give you one spoilery thing about this. He curb stomps a gorilla on a urinal, and it is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my entire life. But like just the way he plays the character, because he's cleaning up, right? The animatronics, the first one attacks him or whatever, he kills it, moves on, like puts it in a garbage bag, changes his shirt, and then he goes back to cleaning. Well, the other ones are still there, and he knows they're there, and he knows what's going on, but he's still just gonna finish the job. And dude, like I don't know. By the end of the movie, I felt like I wanted to see more. I was like, I want a sequel. I don't care if he's fighting animatronics or he's fighting a demon or whatever. I want to see this character again, and I want a sequel of some sort that has him in it. So I highly recommend, if you didn't like Five Nights at Freddy's or if you didn't understand it, just go see Willy's Wonderland. It's a way more fun movie.
Do yourself a favor if you get a chance. I don't know if you can find it.
Rick, you're talking, but I don't see any audio coming from you.
You don't see any audio? Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Now I hear you. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Do yourself a favor if you get a chance. Look up Pauly Shore. He was, I guess, talking on Joe Rogan about Nicolas Cage. I guess he was his neighbor. I don't know if he's still his neighbor, but Nicolas Cage apparently has like the coolest freaking life. And
I bet he does.
He doesn't do any social media. He just like drives sports cars and doesn't socialize with anybody unless he wants to. And like I don't know.
I wish.
It's like he just has so much money and can do whatever he wants and like just like is so isolated. He's freaking awesome. And like he just takes whatever projects he wants. Like this sounds like, yeah, I could take this just because I'm Nicolas Cage.
He's so like, he seems like the coolest person. Like I just I want to be his friend. And like, but like, have you ever noticed that, Nicolas Cage being in a movie has no determination on whether that movie is good or bad.
Right. They're probably like, what? He's probably like, what's the pay? Oh, 100.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't even matter what he's in. It's just like, we don't know if this is going to be good or bad. This is just, it's Nick Cage. However, I will say, and spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen The Flash yet, that scene with Nick Cage as Superman melted my heart a little bit. I liked it. That was a highlight of that movie. He fought a giant scorpion spider monster thing.
Not supposed to say you had, not supposed to admit you watched it in public.
The Flash?
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked The Flash. I thought it was good.
Yeah, well, Ezra Miller is literally the Flash, because.
Yeah, well, listen, I know that. I'm looking at the movie as if Ezra Miller doesn't exist, and this is just the Flash in a universe. It is what it is, because I'm a DC fan.
I'm not giving the studio my money to make another one of those. So I'm not gonna support that.
I watched it on HBO Max, and it's my dad's HBO Max, so I didn't spend a dime. So
I watched. You gave him the view.
I gave him the view. I don't care if I gave him the view. I wanted to view it.
They won me over. Acceptable way to do that is to something bad.
Yeah, well.
So,
it was
for the viewers that don't know, Ezra Miller, who stars as the Flash, has gotten into some legal trouble that might include violence with women.
I don't think anybody doesn't
brainwashing teenage women.
If they're listening to our podcast, odds are they probably are aware of that tidbit.
Oh, there might be a 5-year-old listening.
Yeah, but anyways, yes. If you
watch the news.
if you are a 5-year-old, please avoid Ezra Miller.
Yeah,
and probably avoid our podcast.
Yeah, Please don't listen. Where are your parents?
Don't tell your mom I said pussy.
Now the big decision after we're done: do we start bleeping stuff? Probably not. We're just gonna leave it
in. Leave it in for now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, once we start getting the angry Q&A and people being mad at us about stuff, then
Nah, Joe Rogan cusses. Why can't I cuss?
I forgot we were making Joe Rogan money on this podcast.
Yeah,
you.
right.
I've got to
I guess
move.
people are like, "Oh, this Joe Rogan guy sounds a lot better than these guys."
Yeah, but you gotta think, though, like,
I don't think Joe Rogan's going to promote us.
but people who listen to podcasts
I
are
don't
gonna
know.
like assume that it's not bleeped.
I think there's a place on the Spotify for podcasters that you can recommend other things. We'll put Joe Rogan's podcast on there for you. That'll make you happy.
And what's his name? Trump.
We're gonna put Trump on there.
Yeah,
I think you've had too much moonshine, my friend.
I've had a lot.
And I think that's enough for us today. So this has been fun, guys. We'll be back next week with a new recording. Not sure exactly what our topic's going to be because we never really know until we start talking. But
The robot.
appreciate if you enjoyed the episode. Make sure that you like it, share it with your friends, and don't forget, if you have any questions for us, want to talk to us, hit up the Q&A. But we shall see you next time.